Hi, this is Charles, entrepreneur and tech reporter for venturecaptv, and we're here in San Francisco meeting with Andrew Warner from Mixergy. Thanks for having us. Andrew Warner basically founded an online greeting card company, and now he started, for some, it's been a while, Mixergy.
Yep.
So do you want to tell us a bit about Mixergy and how it got started?
Yeah. Mixergy is a site where I interview entrepreneurs about how they built and very often sold their companies, and sometimes how they failed and why they failed in their businesses. I've been doing this for about 5 years, and it started because I had a lot of free time on my hand and this sense of mission that I wanted to learn why successful entrepreneurs succeed and why failed ones fail.
And so how do you go from a greeting card company to this? I mean, how did you get into interviewing people, meeting people, discussing with them? Like where did that drive come from?
It actually started where I knew that this was going to be a passion. Was I interviewed this woman, Rosalind Resnick, who I worked with for years. And I knew her for years. I watched her as she took her company from her kitchen table to Manhattan to then took it public on NASDAQ. But by spending an hour just asking her questions in an interview format, I got to really dig in and understand some of the things that I didn't know when I was even working with her. And I said, boy, this is really fun, and it's energizing, and I felt alive doing it. And since then, I've just been doing hundreds of interviews.
Yeah, and I'm sure, so many topics, so many things, you've learned so many things. There are so many things you can talk about. What are some
before
tips?
we even get into that, can we talk about the fact that I'm in a new office for the first time here?
Absolutely.
Not for the first time in a new office, but the first time in this office.
I wanted to mention you. And is this the first interview you're doing here?
This is the first interview I'm doing in here. This is the first time I've done anything in here.
Amazing.
It's kind of exciting to have a new office.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
First of all, I'm sorry I didn't mention that.
Amazing
office.
A lot of people think that I do my interviews from home. Nothing wrong with working from home, but there's a reason why I've been doing Mixergy, in Argentina, DC, now here. But every time I get an office, I feel like there's a sense of purpose when you're in an office. Like going into a cathedral. Yeah, you can pray out in the woods, but when you're in a beautiful cathedral, you feel something spiritual, elevated, something like that. Business is my religion, and I want to come in here to the cathedral and just spend time focused on it.
And why San Francisco then?
I picked San Francisco because I want to hear people's gossip as I have dinner. I want to go out to dinner with entrepreneurs and hear the gossip, the stories behind the stories, which I think will make my interviews better. And already last night I was out with an entrepreneur who told me he creates a site that, I won't even reveal his name, where he monitors other people's sites, and he started telling me what was going on, what he was seeing about the entrepreneurs there. Nothing that I can quote him on, but that will make my interviews so much sharper when I actually talk to those entrepreneurs. I'm obsessed with getting the right interview and the right information out.
Do you go from city to city, and once that pool of talent of entrepreneurs is over, you just move to another city, or?
Did you see the office? Why would I leave this office, man? Come on, the cathedral right here.
Okay, I must say it's pretty amazing.
Actually, no, I don't. I do all my interviews on video Skype.
Yeah.
Sometimes entrepreneurs will be a block away, and I'll still say, let's do it via video Skype. And the reason is, I like to be the same with every entrepreneur that I interview, whether they're down the block from me and happen to be in San Francisco or in South Africa. To me, if I do a better job with an entrepreneur who I see in person, but I don't yet know how to talk to someone who's outside of the country, I'm giving my audience an unbalanced impression of business. So I just keep working to get better and better at doing interviews remotely and digging in deep at entrepreneurs and not having to do it in person. But man, it's fun, as you could see, to do it in person.
Exactly. Thank you for doing it in person. I really appreciate it.
You bet.
It's really nice to have you. One of my questions is, and you have so many tips for entrepreneurs, and Mixergy is all about that, right? If you could give, because I'm kind of turning the tables around here, if you could give, from your perspective, a few tips on, I guess it's general, not specific, but for, young entrepreneurs that are interested in getting into it, whether that be tech, whether, any.
Let me give you one great piece of advice. So I was at this party that a venture capitalist in Santa Monica threw, and I was talking to the venture capitalist, who's a great guy, and then some woman came and grabbed him out of the conversation with me and took him into a room. And I said to a friend, why was he just taken away, and what the hell's going on in that room? She goes, oh, that guy is going to be interviewing him, and they need a quiet space to do it. He's going to do it for his blog. And I said, wait, for his blog, not for Fortune magazine or anything? He was just taken away to a private area? And she said, yeah. And what I realized was, if you do interviews with other people, you get their attention for the whole course of the interview, and they get to know you. Like you and I are now, we talked for what, an hour or less?
Absolutely, yeah.
We could have met at a party and talked for about the same amount of time, but I know you now because we focus so much on ourselves and each other here and prep. So the same thing. everyone will tell you, go out there and blog and just write your ideas down. Great advice. But if you do interviews, you'll learn other people's ideas and you'll really get in deep and personal with them. Do that.
That's amazing. I mean, that's what I was going to say. I'm basically an entrepreneur. I've been doing this because I love it, because I love meeting people. But, and you know, it's great to actually, you know, get feedback and actually network and stuff. But I haven't heard anybody actually giving that advice. So I think it's great advice.
There you go.
Andrew, is there anything other that I forgot? And as you know, you're the pro in this. Is there anything that you want to mention apart from this new, great new office you have?
You know what? Since we're talking about the office, I'll talk again about the office. The need for elevation. It's not just necessarily about the office. When I started my very first company and I ran it out of my house, I got myself an Audi. It was a used Audi, but it was an Audi. And the reason I got it is because I wanted to feel a little sense of elevation. I am not meant to just be a guy who could barely scrape by. I'm meant for something freaking great. And the car helped me communicate that. I bought a house for myself. You know, it was in Queens, which is kind of a dump. But it was still my place that I was designing my way because I want to feel like I'm not just some slob who's meant to scrape by. I want to feel like I'm meant for freaking greatness. And that comes from the environment you're in, but more than that comes from the environment you've got in your mind, the stories you read about. You know, you watch sitcoms and the entrepreneur, the businessman's always an evil person who's working too hard. But if you read entrepreneurial biographies, you start to feel like this is the world I want to inhabit. This is a world that's exciting. These people are doing things, leaving their mark on the world. I want to play in that game.
Absolutely.
So do the things that elevate you, and then it'll bring out the best in you.
Why aren't there any windows here? If you know, you have to see the city, and isn't that a part of it?
That is the biggest pain. They actually keep offering me windows. I always rent from the same company. They always offer me windows, and I hate to turn it down, especially when I'm on the 12th floor here. The problem is when I shoot video, if I have a window and it takes, you know, a couple of hours sometimes to go through the whole thing, the sun will change, and then I'll have a shade on this side, but not on that side. I'm not wasting my time with that anymore.
Okay, interesting. And before we leave, I was wondering, you've done so much, covered a lot of topics. I'm sure that you have tons of other topics that you want to address.
Yes.
Is there an end in sight for Mixergy, or putting it in the hands of somebody else?
I will die running Mixergy, and I'm surprised you asked me that as the last question. You cannot ask me that as the last question. Last question you were going to ask me about was virginity, because I ask my interviewees sometimes about virginity.
When did you lose your virginity?
Half an hour ago in the other office.
Wow.
No, here's why I ask. I'll say it. It was 17. Okay. Don't mean to brag. No, 17 actually, and I thought that it took too long. Now, why am I telling you this, and why do I ask entrepreneurs this? Because I feel like the personal drives the business. Why does somebody have a need to work endlessly? Why does someone have a passion for it? It doesn't come from just having gone to business school or having been told that, you know, there's extra money in entrepreneurship. There's a sense of drive that comes from it.
Absolutely.
For me, it was a sense that, hey, you know what? Everyone else seems to be losing it at 14, 15. I grew up in New York, I told you, right? In Queens, which is kind of a dump. But I felt like, well, there's something wrong with me in comparison to everyone else. And I wanted to work harder to show that I was worth something in this world. I wasn't going to be, you know, play second fiddle to the rest of the world. Yeah. So that's why that helped drive my business and my determination. And I feel we have to ask entrepreneurs about, maybe not necessarily the virginity question, because it's a little intimate, but we have to find out about the personal side of them, because we get to know the business side of them.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, did that make you uncomfortable?
No, not at all.
When did you lose yours?
I lost mine. I was trying to think. 18, 19, I think, so even later than you.
So now are you in your head in competition with me, like Andrew
absolutely.
was more of a man than I was? You were, right?
No,
I would feel that way.
I'm thinking, though, did you find any correlations when you asked other entrepreneurs this? I mean, did you find that the more successful ones did it earlier or something like that?
I didn't do that kind of research, no. But I did find that there is some connection to it. There is one entrepreneur who lost it way later in life, and you can see that he felt like there was a part of himself that was missing, you know, and he had to go and spend time focusing on it.
Look, that was a great interview. Thank you for your time. I love that last question, so thanks for asking it to me. And thanks for taking the time to meet with us.
You bet. Thanks for being here.
Good luck with Mixergy.
Thanks.
Bye.